What is going on, my friends? Cubs fan Han here for another Galaxy of Heroes video. I apologize. It's actually been a little bit since I got a video out here. I took a long weekend with my family and just decided, you know what? I'm going to relax this weekend, and I didn't film any videos. And so I'm really sorry. I know a lot of you guys love that consistent content, and I apologize that you didn't have anything this weekend. But we're going to talk Galaxy of Heroes today, and then tomorrow, or the next day, probably tomorrow, I've got a Mandalorian hype video talking a little speculation on what's coming with the Mandalorian. I've already filmed that with Star Wars Explained, and so we had a great conversation, definitely one that I don't think you guys are going to want to miss. And so in this video, I've got two subjects to cover, Galaxy of Heroes related. The number one question I get on this channel right now is, where are tournaments? And if you've never been in a tournament video, I would encourage you to check out some of my tournaments of old. It's not the actual game mode in the game tournaments, which was killed a long time ago, but I would use test accounts to pit 1v1 characters against each other with no mods and just see who won and put them in a bracket and have a lot of fun that way. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why they're no longer possible, and then I'm going to give some optimism. What? Some optimism for Galaxy of Heroes. The devs actually did something subtle recently that I haven't had a chance to talk about on this channel, and it gives me a little bit of hope. And I'll tell you a little bit about why here in just a little bit. It has to do with ships. All right, starting with why tournaments are no longer going to happen. So look at this. This is my test account here, and I want to tell you guys a little bit about what made tournaments possible, because I feel like this deserves a good explanation, because the question just comes up enough. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I've probably had this question over 50 times in the last month, both on Discord and in the comments. And so the way this was working is I've got these test accounts. We've got unlimited resources in here. And I could go in the arena and I could put a single character in, and I could have somebody else like Skeltrix here put a single character in, and we could face off those characters against each other. Now, what complicated this is these test accounts, while they were given to us by CG, they're no longer supporting them. And so we just have the resources they've given us from the past to use now, and they're not shutting them down. Thanks, CG. I really appreciate you not shutting these down. Don't get any ideas, though. And you see, I've got 46.05 million crystals. And so I can go in here and I can farm all these characters as aggressively as I want to. But I'm going to run into every single day. I'm going to run into a cap on how far I can farm these characters. You notice here I don't even have Darth Malik because I didn't bother doing the event when it came around. They're not sending me those shards. And relics are all over the place, because even if you've got unlimited crystals, you can only do so much with Cantina energy in a single day. I mean, look at this here. I'll show you guys. So 100, 200. Look how far, by the way, these scale. These Cantina refreshes are kind of frightening. It's going to cap me off eventually. Okay, so that's as much energy as I can use, and then the refreshes eventually run out. And that's enough to maybe every single day I can take a character to Relic 5 or 6 from nothing, something like that, and so it takes a long time. So the reason I'm taking so long to explain that to you is that's just my account. To have a fair tournament, I also need to have characters on somebody else's roster at the same level as mine. And so say we'll use Skeltrix as an example here. Let's go over here. We'll look at Skeltrix. Here's his roster. Look at how different it is than mine. He's got some Relic 7s. He's got quite a few, but he's also got a lot of Relic 1s. And look at the roster down here. You know, there's so much that's not farmed, and there's so much that's not farmed for me. So for us to both have rosters where we can have even Relic 7 on Relic 7 with no mod matches, for now, logistically, is a nightmare. And so I just want you guys to know this breaks my heart. Tournaments are, out of every video concept I've ever had, comfortably the most exciting and the most fun that I've ever had. I hope one day this can change. And so in your feedback to CG, ask them to send all the game changers, infinite relic materials, and infinite Gear 12 finishers. And then maybe we can do tournaments again. But until then, it's going to take a while before I have a couple rosters that are able to do it. Now, getting into my optimism for Capital Games right now and this game. We had two new ships hit the game. We've got the Y-Wing and we've got the Hyena. that hit. And what caught my eye the most, the Hyena doesn't have a crew, but in particular, the Y-Wing doesn't have a crew, which to me, the droids not having a crew on their, having a crewless ship, it kind of made sense to me. But a Y-Wing, a ship that really very sensibly should have a crew member with it, did not have a crew member in it. And this to me is potentially a very player-friendly move long term. Now, it could be isolated just to these ships, but I want to kind of talk through why this to me could actually give me a ton of hope for both. I mean, just for me, I'm just clamoring for CG to do something that shows me that they're okay with making player-friendly moves, and this gives me that hope. So there's that hope in particular, and then there's the hope for the ship mode in general, which to me, ships is by far the most discouraging part of this game. It takes so long to farm for this, and there's so many other farming priorities that when you combine needing to farm the ship itself and the crew members, it's just incredibly discouraging. I mean, I never finished Biston's ship because I was just like, ain't nobody got time for that. So we had this question in the dev Q&A, and then there's a little tidbit in the dev insights I want to cover. So number one is they talked about the tuning of these ships, because part of me thought at first, I'm like, okay, so they don't have a crew, so are they going to be competitive? And it looks like they will be. For the Vulture, Droid, Hyena, and Y-Wing, our crewless ships so far, which, by the way, so far, we made sure that their stats scaled in such a way that they can remain competitive and vital parts of their fleets at the current maximum relic level. And so they're tuned to compete with the existing ships with the current relic levels, because there's nothing you're going to be able to do to give them relics because they have no crew. But this is also what gave me a lot of excitement. In the dev Q&A, or the dev insights here for the Y-Wing, why is this a crewless ship? And CG_M says, whoever M is. M? Stay classy, man. Unlike the droid ships, which don't really have a separatist pilot, the BTLB Y-Wing would normally had a pilot, but we ended up not including a crew. There was a long discussion. And so, this again, I'll just tell you what I'm thinking this might be. There was a long discussion on whether we should include an older, well-owned clone. In the end, we decided to make it easier to unlock by not requiring crew members from your collection. So, combining the so far statement that these are our first crewless ships so far, and that the fact that there was a long discussion on whether or not to include a crew member for this, it made me wonder, is this the future of ships? And you could kind of see a trickling down effect, like the Millennium Falcon meta. There were so many characters needed for that. It was crazy. Like, if you wanted to have it, that totally made me lose my interest in ships. My interest was already waning, but I was competitive in ships, right? And then when I saw how many characters I needed to farm for that meta shift, I was just like, screw it. And I dropped all the way to 50, and I never climbed back up to 1. I did not care because I had way too many other priorities than to farm a character just for ships. It was a very pay-to-play kind of thing to do, and at that time, I even was paying, and it was too pay-to-play for me. Maybe it wasn't for you, it was for me. And so we had that shift, and then after that, the next meta, kind of moving more towards this, this Republic thing with Anakin ship, etc. There were less crew members needed for a full fleet, and now we're moving towards even crewless ships. And so to me, is this how CG moves on saving ships in Galaxy of Heroes? And does it give us hope that there are player-friendly moves being made here? Because having a character that's not absolutely necessary for a ship just, to me, makes that game mode so much more enjoyable if I can separate them completely. This is just my experience. Tell me if you guys agree. But the most discouraging part of ships to me, by far, was not the game mode itself. It was the fleet, the crew members you needed to farm to make a ship competitive. And the fact that you needed to put Zetas on characters and now relics. It's crazy enough maxing out the characters we've got for Grand Arena and for Arena. But to add ships on top of that just feels like too much to me. And so I've always wanted farming of ships to be completely isolated to the ships game mode. I am hoping that this is an inkling that CG is going to slowly move this thing to environment where we just have crewless ships in the future. I could be wrong, but that is what I'm really hoping, because that gives me both optimism for the ships mode and to see Capital Games make some very player-friendly moves. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you guys think about all of this down in the comments below. Again, tell me this, anyone who's been here for a while, what was your favorite tournament moment on this channel? And hopefully one day we can bring those back on the channel. I will work very hard to bring them back. I am going to be able to do tournaments here pretty soon over on Dragon Champions, because I'm going to be getting some very flexible test accounts there like we used to have here that will have unlimited resources. So if you love the tournament format, definitely check that out. But let me know what your thoughts are there. And also, what do you think about this ships thing? Do you think that we could be moving towards crewless ships in the future? Do you think this could save the game mode? Would that save it in your eyes? Would you be more interested in ships if that was how ships were farmed and you didn't have to worry about crew? Let me know. And if you did like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And as always, my brothers, don't forget,